We are almost halfway through. Man, that is hard to believe. We're heading into week 8. Welcome to the NFL Power Rankings Show, everybody. Presented to you by Energizer from our studios in Los Angeles. My name is Andrew Siciliano, the man on the other side of the screen, the man who is up late Monday night listening to Creed on his iTunes and trying to figure out what to do with the new rankings when 4 of his top 7 lose, is Eric at home. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've recovered. I think the power ranking gods had a good laugh at our expense our Monday night, I should say. So we've recovered. We've put an order together. We're pretty proud of it.
They laugh in your general direction, and they look at the rankings right now on the screen. You can do it as well. Scan the QR code. Go to NFL.com/power rankings, and when you do, you see Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs ho-hum, just like you thought. As we get near the middle of the season, sitting there at number 1. Then the Eagles are up 3. Last week's number 1, the Niners are down 2 to number 3. The Ravens, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Lions, and your Dallas Cowboys. Everybody, let's open up with the 49ers because they were number 1. And again, as mentioned, you were on deadline. You got to sit up late Monday night, not as if you weren't going to be watching anyway, to see the fighting Brock Purdy's lose back-to-back games, Eric, for the first time in a year. It hadn't happened since week 6 and 7 of a year ago. Listen, they lost to a great defense last week on the road in Cleveland. Jake Moody missed a field goal, but everyone thought they were going to pick it up, right? They go on the road to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins isn't winning this game.
And then what happened, right? Yeah, it was a surprising result, just as I think what happened in Cleveland coming off the high, the 5-game win streak they opened the season with. But I'm glad you mentioned week 6 and week 7 last year. Remember, they were a 3-4 team a year ago. And what happened immediately after that? They ripped off 10 straight regular season wins, had some success in the playoffs until the NFC Championship game. To me, this is still a better team than what they had last year. All the questions at quarterback we hadn't even figured out. Brock Purdy was the starter, but look, Purdy was not the guy Monday night, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, 2 interceptions, 5 of 10 passing, didn't really get much done. A couple of high throws lead to picks, and credit to the Vikings for shortening the game and making it an 8-possession game and really minimizing the chances for the 49ers to capitalize on every single one of them. So, the game plan was great. However, I expected the 49ers to come in and flex their muscles. They got in a hole early. They couldn't dig their way out of it.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy had 2 possessions at the end of the game with a chance to do something and rally him back. And he threw 2 picks, both of them to Cameron Bynum. I also think it's a bit concerning that neither Nick Bosa nor anybody, Randy Gregory, anybody on that defensive line got to Kirk Cousins. Yeah, he escaped once or twice. They didn't sack him. And now the 49ers go back home and they face, before their bye, a very well-rested Bengals team that is coming off a bye. Not saying it's a must-win, but you don't want to go into that bye on a 3-game losing streak, do you? No, you don't. They are number 3. The team ahead of them, we're kind of working out of order here today, Eric. The Philadelphia Eagles. They are the number 2 team in football. They move up 3 after a big resounding win, pulled away late over the Dolphins. Were you tempted to put them at 1?
I thought about it, right? I mean, Kansas City consistently, even if it hasn't always been impressive since the week 1 loss, is taking care of business. I've argued they haven't even played their best game yet. So I kept them ahead of the Eagles for this point, but hard not to argue what happened Sunday. It was kind of a 3-phase victory. Yeah, Miami had a few moments. They had the pick 6. There were a few shaky elements to the game for Philadelphia, but in the end, overwhelmed them. They hung tough with a secondary that was sort of a patchwork group. And oh, by the way, you just throw up the bat signal and trader Howie Roseman comes in with Kevin Byard after the game. I mean, what a move. But from what we saw Sunday, putting pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, really forcing it out of his hands. A little bit of luck along the way, dropped touchdowns, some penalties for Miami, but still, I thought it was an impressive performance all the way around. And I think this A.J. Brown guy is pretty good after a slow start.
Yeah, they've made good trades. Howie Roseman has two really good trades. Not that the others haven't been good. With the Titans, you get A.J. Brown, and then you get Kevin Byard, who is an all-pro safety guy as well, that has a career in broadcasting, as he was in here doing broadcast boot camp at NFL Network back during the offseason. All you give up is a 5 and a 6, and Terrell Edmonds here, so you trade a safety for a safety, and the picks they gave up weren't even their picks. They were picks that they had gotten in other trades. So, yeah, there's that. And now the Eagles, as the number 2 team, get the Commanders this week, and we are still trying to figure out the Commanders. The team the Eagles beat, we are also still trying to figure out, Eric. They are the Dolphins. They are down a couple spots to number 5. And I'll repeat here what I said last week. And I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. You have every right to be angry at me, but just look at the numbers. Eric, they haven't beaten anybody. They've played 2 really good teams, the Bills. The Bills have 3 losses now, and now the Eagles, and they have been beaten soundly in both.
Yeah, there's a stark difference between the level of competition and how the Dolphins have played. There's also a difference, I think, between Devin Achane being on the field and him not being there. They didn't have him Sunday. They got away from the run game early, but the results weren't there when they did. So you can understand why Mike McDaniel felt like, hey, we've got to get the quick passing game going. We don't have our weaponry in the backfield. And it just kind of slimmed everything down and made it a little less dangerous. And so, the offensive line taking a big step back, probably their worst game of the year. They're still shorthanded there. We should see Connor Williams return. We'll see about Armstead. So that there's some hope for improvement from within. But that's got to be the case in the secondary, too. I thought the Eagles really kind of picked on those corners a little bit. You get Xavier Howard back, you get Jalen Ramsey back, I'm less worried. But back to your original point, Andrew, until they beat a quality team and do so, on the road, relatively convincingly, something like that, I think we're going to have some questions about this group and just how viable they will become, December, January, in the home stretch of the season.
It's really interesting because this week, the Dolphins get a rematch with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. It's a rematch from week 2. And back in week 2 seems like 10 years ago, the Patriots actually played them really well. Now, Christian Gonzalez was up and active and played a big role in that game. But hey, maybe the Patriots found a way to slow them down after a huge performance against the Chargers week 1. This is the rematch. Obviously, the Patriots aren't that good, but they won last week. Regardless, keep an eye on the Dolphins and the Patriots this week. Our team of the week now, which is presented by Truist, the Baltimore Ravens, Eric. The Baltimore Ravens, who check in today as the number 4 team in your power rankings, they had what we thought was going to be the game of the week against the Lions. They ended that game by the end of the first quarter.
It was a shocking result for a lot of us. I think everybody felt like this Detroit team was going to come in and give them a real test. And look, this is a Baltimore team that's lost at home to the Colts with a backup quarterback. So you could understand why people thought this was going to be a great matchup. Instead, they sent a big statement. Best offensive performance of the year. We're seeing the fruits of Todd Monken's labor finally start to come out. Maybe some holes in the Lions, but that's a separate issue. I just thought what the Ravens did was unlike anything they had really done probably since week 1 when they kind of put the foot on the neck of the Texans. But even then, this performance where they said, oh, you think you're a playoff contender right here. Well, let me show you what it looks like. And look, I'll ask it to you. Do they not look like a Super Bowl team if they're operating with that kind of offensive efficiency? That's kind of where we're at after that game.
Well, Lamar wasn't running to run. He was staying in the pocket. His accuracy this year is as good as it's ever been. They used the play fake and took advantage of those aggressive linebackers masterfully from the first quarter on. They could have, Eric, gotten to 50. This could have been a 50-burger. They took their foot off the gas at the end. And when you face Lamar Jackson for the first time, you're not a division foe. You don't have a plan. Look, they had a plan. The plan didn't work. And the Ravens are that good now. Maybe a letdown game this week. They're on the road in Arizona as we air this on Tuesday evening on the NFL channel here. It still, we think, is going to be Josh Dobbs. Maybe that changes. But regardless, yeah, the Ravens are in first, and I don't know that anybody wants to play them right now. The flip side of it, though, the Lions. I know they have a lot of defensive injuries here. They had fought through all of those injuries. Injuries in the offensive backfield as well. I don't want to blame the injuries here, but I still wouldn't want to play them, Eric. You still do have them in the top 10.
Yeah, I really struggle with where to place them, right? They'd accrued so much goodwill up to this point. They weren't just the darlings. They backed it up with good play. Even the loss to Seattle, you felt like wasn't so demoralizing because, okay, the offense played well. They had a chance at the end. They were in it. Yeah, it was coming off the week one win, but that one, pales in comparison to what we saw Sunday. This time, the team that loves punching people in the mouth got punched a couple times and couldn't respond. And the most demoralizing play, kind of what you described with Lamar earlier, was seeing Aiden Hutchinson and these rushers who we used to seeing getting to the quarterback flail around for 8-9 seconds while Lamar decides where he's going to throw it back in the end zone, touchdown. To me, that was the play where you felt like they're just not going to have an answer for him today. And they haven't really done well against mobile quarterbacks in recent years. Is that just a flaw? Do the injuries factor in there? They lose Jerry Jacobs right before the game. There were some bad rolls there, but at the same time, how they respond is going to say a lot about the fighting Dan Campbells at this point.
The fighting Dan Campbells. Listen, I still would not want to have to go to Detroit and face them in the postseason.
I agree.
I don't. I still think they are the third best team in the NFC. I do. And I'm going to say they're better than the Cowboys. You have them ranked better than the Cowboys. You have Dallas at number 8. But again, you're going to be put on a pedestal a lot. How do they answer? They come back now with a Monday night game this week to close out Week 8 against the Raiders. They are clearly the better team, but this is their first Monday night home game since 2018, since after they made the playoffs and went to lose in Seattle in 2017. All right. The Lions 7 and the Cowboys 8. We're just getting rolling here on the NFL Power Ranking Show presented to you by Energizer. Coming up, do we have a 3-loss team in the top 10? We do. We'll tell you which one straight ahead. But wait, there's more on the NFL Power Ranking Show presented by Energizer. The Buffalo Bills are down 2, but they are still in the top 10 with 3 losses at number 9. The Cleveland Browns don't move despite winning somehow in Indianapolis. The Seahawks don't move despite winning as well at home. Bengals, Steelers, Jets, Texans, and Falcons rounding out the top 16, all of them moving up. Eric Edholm, of course, is putting these numbers together, and he has the Bills as a top 10 team, despite not 1, not 2, Eric, but 3 losses, and despite losing to Mac Jones and the Patriots. I'm not trying to slam Mac Jones nor Bill Belichick, but we had seen how they had looked in previous weeks. This was not supposed to be a game, Eric.
Yeah, it wasn't really. And, it's the third straight game, Andrew, where the offense has started very slowly. This is not a new theme. We've been talking about it for a while. And it's essentially turned it over to the defense and special teams and said, all right, you guys take care of business. We got your back. We'll get there eventually. But hold the fort until we're ready to get going. And look, the defense without Matt Milano, without Trey White, without Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, you go on and on. I mean, look, they're gutted on that side of the ball. They're going to have an off day every now and then, even against the likes of a struggling Patriots offense. So, look, this is the kind of thing where I really debated, do they belong in the top 10? Should I drop them? Wait, beyond that? I felt like we give them another chance, right? We feel like there's enough firepower here to make this thing work eventually, but it's hard not to sort of poke holes in their resume right now. They're a complex team.
They are, and I think people just assume that when you lose Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, you plug other guys into their uniforms and then nothing changes. That is not the case. Right. This team has taken some major hits. Dawson Knox now needs wrist surgery as well. No word on how long he is going to be out. They drafted Dalton Kincaid, so yay. I mean, they should be fine there, but he is still a rookie. They get a short week. They get the Bucks coming to town. You hope to get to 5-3, and then you get a little bit of the mini bye here. They're still in the top 10. They're still very much a playoff team. They are at number 9. The Browns also look like a playoff team here. They are at number 10. They have a massive question mark, Eric, at quarterback, but they don't have a question at defensive end. I was in the building for what was one of the greatest defensive performances I have ever seen, turned in by Myles Garrett or anyone.
He took over the game. And when you have a quarterback situation where you go into every single game now not knowing what to expect out of that position, you're going to need a Myles Garrett takeover game every now and then. Now, they may not get that every single week, right? But this was a tremendous performance, absolutely time after time. You know, the strip sack in the end zone, the blocked field goal, you name it. I mean, he was a one-man wrecking force. But, you know, some other elements of the defense gave up some plays. Certainly the offense was scattershot at times. But, boy, my question is, can they sustain this? That's the biggest thing. With all the unknowns of Deshaun Watson, the injuries at the running back spot, now Ford is hurt. You know, Amari Cooper, great 1 week, a ghost in the first half on Sunday. It's just it's a lot of factors, and you've seen this team up close 2 weeks in a row, Andrew. I mean, I think they look like a playoff team too, but I got a lot of balls I'm juggling in the air, and whether I can keep them all going, I don't know.
Yeah, the biggest issue is the quarterback. And Deshaun Watson was supposed to be okay. He looked okay in practice on Friday, came out Sunday, and clearly was not okay. And even though Kevin Stefanski says we were benching him to protect him after he took the big hit, he had clear concussion protocol. You know what? Just stay over there. We'll let the defense win this game. On the 5 passes that he threw, he didn't look right.
Nope.
He didn't look like he had the zip on that ball. Julian Blackmon comes all the way from the other hash to pick him off on that first interception, and you're like, if he has more of an arm, does Blackmon even have a chance to get there? He threw a second pick, which the ball hit the ground. So, look, he didn't look right, and they have to figure it out. P.J. Walker, as good as this defense is, likely doesn't take you to the playoffs. Will Deshaun Watson be back? Do you put him on IR? I mean, these are questions that they now have to answer and have to navigate. I think they can survive without Jerome Ford for a couple of weeks. I'm a big Pierre Strong fan, believe it or not, and Kareem Hunt looks okay, scored 2 touchdowns. But Kevin Stefanski, give him Coach of the Year right now because he is navigating through all of this, and they are 4-2. Let's do some power moves for another AFC North team. These power moves are presented by Energizer. I admittedly didn't think the Steelers were going to come in here to LA and beat the Rams. But they did what they always do here, Eric. Kenny Pickett starts slowly, and then in the fourth quarter, he just figures it out.
It's every week, right? 192 or their 300 yards game in the fourth quarter. It's like I tell my kids, Andrew, it doesn't have to be this hard, okay? There's a better way to do it, right? However, with Mike Tomlin involved, you know his team's going to play for 4 quarters. Maybe that wasn't the case in Houston, but still, every other game this season they've competed. And look, those 2 games, Houston and San Francisco, we looked at them and said, are they any good? Are they a good football team? Defensively, offensively, big questions, but they found ways to win games. And you come into the fourth quarter trailing, you leave it flexing your chest. They dominated the final 15 minutes, even with, a couple of boneheaded, taunting penalties and things like that. They may not have even gotten the last Kenny Pickett sneak there.
They did not.
The point is, they did not. Let's be diplomatic. Yeah, that's the deal. I really want to like this team more than I do, but I have listened to you Steelers fans. I have moved them up. They're in the top 14. They're in that playoff march right now.
Yeah, real quick here. There's a loophole when it comes to NFL officiating here. All turnovers on downs are automatically reviewed, right? So if Kenny Pickett was ruled to have been short of the first down, they would have gotten an automatic review.
Right.
But getting the first down on fourth down is not automatically reviewed. Everyone in the building, including Kenny Pickett, knows that if they had reviewed that, it wasn't a first down. Regardless, the Steelers won the game, and Sean McVay was out of timeouts. So there's that. Moving on to future champions. Let's do this instead. Let's do Germany. And remind you that coming up, weeks 9 and 10, we have games in Germany. Week 9, the Dolphins and the Chiefs. Week 10, it's the Colts and the Patriots in Frankfurt. You can watch the game on NFL Network, and you can stream it on NFL Plus, plus.nfl.com, plus.nfl.com exclusively right here on NFL Network. Now, I was getting so excited here about future champions. Let's do them. They're presented by FanDuel as we show you a team with the best odds to win the NFC South, a team that has already gone overseas this year. The Atlanta Falcons, they are the favorite after Desmond Ridder comes alive. Eric late and sets up Young Wei Koo for a game winner. You have the Falcons up 6-16.
They have a formula, don't they, right? Let the kicker take care of business late. Desmond Ridder has led him back 4 times this year, but 6 interceptions, 6 fumbles, 3 fumbles Sunday after a 3-pick game the week before. Stop the turnovers, Desmond. You're making it too tough. The Bijan situation was a little weird, but look, they came out with a win over a division foe on the road. Can't really argue with that. So credit to them. They keep finding ways to get it done in these situations. They don't win impressively, but they get it done.
Yeah, I don't know what the big stink is with the Bijan thing. The guy wasn't feeling well, so he didn't finish the game. He wasn't feeling well. You ever wake up on a Sunday morning and not feel well? Me too. Falcons won the game thanks to Young Wei Koo's bomb right there, and they beat the fighting Baker Mayfield. All right, coming up on the NFL Power Ranking Show presented by Energizer. The Vikings pulled the stunner on Monday night. What now do they do? Is Kirk Cousins not getting traded? That's straight ahead. It's the NFL Power Ranking Show presented by Energizer. The countdown continues. I feel like Casey Kasem telling you the Bucs are down 5-17, followed by the Rams, the Saints, and the Vikings there at 20. Indianapolis, the LA Chargers, the Green Bay Packers, and the Las Vegas Raiders, according to one. Eric Edholm. He has the Vikings up 5. Eric, after beating and stunning the 49ers on Monday night, and they're kind of in this middle ground of mediocrity in the NFC. They're kind of in it for a wild card, or do they trade Kirk Cousins? I don't know. Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're pretty interesting all of a sudden, right? I mean, that trade Kirk talk should quiet down after probably his best game in at least a year, if not longer, maybe one of the best games we've seen by a quarterback this season. And to do it without Justin Jefferson, to do it, with Addison leaving the game briefly, the massive night he had, stealing a touchdown away from Charvarius Ward after he'd had one taken away from him earlier in the game. Just so many things went right. They rotated the running backs. It was effective. The offensive line didn't get killed. And defensively, look, they forced the key turnovers. That's what they wanted to do. The 2 late interceptions, the early Christian McCaffrey fumble. It was a great game plan, very well executed, and a loss that can or a win rather, that can springboard him into something really interesting all of a sudden. This is a team that won a lot of games last year, so don't count them out yet.
And as we sit here today, they are 3-4 in the 8th spot in the NFC somehow, and 7 teams make the playoffs. But this week they also go to Green Bay, and the Vikings are one of those teams where I say they're not good enough to just start checking off wins. So what are they getting in Green Bay this week? You have the Packers down 3-23.
Yeah, they're getting a team that we're already starting to question, or at least the nervous Packer fans and people who follow that team, whether Jordan Love is the guy. I don't seem to remember this happening in 2008 with Aaron Rodgers. But look, I mean, he's only been slightly worse than Rodgers was, interestingly enough, through his first 6 starts. I think there's a little bit of a panic factor here. The fact that he's thrown interceptions in 4 straight games, that's a big deal. I want to see this defense, continue the way they played the other day. But it's about Love consistently getting the ball to those talented receivers. They don't do that, they don't have a chance, I don't think.
No. Packers fans are sad, as are fans of the bottom of your rankings. Let's get the end of the line on the board here. The Commanders, the Titans, who trade Kevin Byard. Who's next? The Broncos, the Patriots, the Bears are up to 29. They got a 2 in front of their name now. The Giants, the Cardinals, and the winless Carolina Panthers. What do we make of the Commanders? I mean, they should have beaten the Giants, Eric.
Yeah, they should have, absolutely. I mean, look, the blocked field goal, the chances they had down there. Sam Howell is sort of come under the spotlight. Is he the guy? Is he going to get benched this week, next week? After that, is Eric Bieniemy's play calling helping all the pressure that's been hit on them up front? Look, they've got to fix something offensively and quick before this Eagles game and decide who their quarterback is for the rest of the season, Andrew.
remember, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future gain. So if you don't like where Eric put your team this week, don't worry. Something crazy is going to happen in week 8. It always does. And then your team's going to be somewhere else next week. So don't get mad. Just watch week 8. And we thank you for watching this show. You got it, Eric. Every week. And remember, we're a podcast. Download us. Write a review. Say you like us. I hope you do. That's Eric. I'm Andrew. Goodbye.